Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.
In this podcast, we'll talk about the Social Climate Fund, a new tool with which the EU aims to support lower-income groups through the energy transition. Want to know more? Stay with us.
The European Union wants to lead by example and is determined to become the first climate-neutral continent by 2050, hoping others will follow. And to get there, it wants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030, compared to 1990 levels.
That's an ambitious target.
It certainly is. That's why, in July 2021, the Commission presented the so-called Fit for 55 package, a set of new rules covering areas of climate, land use, energy, transport and taxation to bring them into line with the targets agreed in the European climate law and put our economies and societies on the green track. Let's listen to Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen and Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans.
We have the goals, we have the climate law, we have it all underpinned by investment, and now today it's about the roadmap.
I believe we now have a package that can take us to our goal, which is now a legal obligation of reducing our emissions with at least 55% by 2030, which will set us on a path of climate neutrality by 2050. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, it is hard. But it's also an obligation.
But there's one caveat. While in the long term the benefits of the green transition clearly outweigh its costs, climate policies risk putting extra pressure on vulnerable households, micro-enterprises and transport users in the short run.
So, to soften the blow, the Fit for 55 package proposes a new social climate fund. Ursula von der Leyen.
The climate transition will be accompanied by a social climate fund. This fund will support income and it will support investments to tackle energy poverty and to cut bills for vulnerable households and small businesses. So this is real support for those that need it most, while the pricing is effective.
The new fund will help these groups meet the additional costs they may face when the EU Emissions Trading Scheme, or ETS, starts applying to the buildings and road transport sectors where decarbonisation efforts have so far been slow. This is Alex Wilson from the European Parliamentary Research Service.
This poses a particular problem for vulnerable consumers who spend a large proportion of their income on energy and transport, and they may lack alternative options in terms of green mobility, or they might live in homes that are not energy efficient or depend very much on fossil fuels for heating and cooling. The Commission therefore wants a quarter of additional ETS revenues from these new sectors to be spent on financial compensation schemes for consumers, investing in improving energy efficiency or promoting decarbonisation in buildings and road transport.
Now, how will this fund work? Stay with us.
The fund will provide over €72 billion in EU funding to member states for the period 2025 to 2032, to be paid for mainly by ETS credits in the buildings and road transport sectors.
Now, this money will need to be matched by equivalent social climate funding from member states themselves, which will need to prepare detailed social climate plans before the end of June 2024. So in total, the fund could mobilise €144 billion for a socially fair transition.
That's quite some money.
Yes, it is. And the first payments could take place in 2025. But first, the proposal needs to be approved by both the Council and the European Parliament. So what are their views?
Well, the Parliament has long been pushing for an energy transition that is socially sustainable and does not exacerbate energy poverty, arguing that the costs of energy efficiency renovations should not be borne by low-income households.
Now, the proposal to set up a social climate fund has been referred to the Environment Committee and to the Committee for Employment and Social Affairs, which will be producing a joint report. In the Council, member states are still discussing the details of the fund. But what about other stakeholders?
Environmental organisations were generally critical of the Fit for 55 package, arguing it lacked ambition for a task of this magnitude, although some do see the benefits of the Social Climate Fund as a tool to help vulnerable consumers meet the higher costs of the energy transition. Here's Yvonne Lemon from Friends of the Earth Europe.
We see the Social Climate Fund as recognition of the need to support low-income Europeans to access much-needed renovations, renewables and transport schemes. However, the amount of funding available is insufficient at the moment, and there are concerns about costly energy bills as a result of extending the emissions trading scheme to buildings.
The thought and the intention to leave no one behind in the green transition are certainly there. But the question is, can the fund make up for the shortfall from increased energy bills for vulnerable citizens?
For more information, check out Alex Wilson's briefing on the EPRS website.
This is a European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Thanks for listening.